strange. It's because it is. Well, no, it's from a strange source. It's from a YouTube live stream that we did earlier in the week here on ROTC. If you're curious about the rest of the live stream and what other discussion goes on and, well, at the same time, what happens to the fate of the Oakland Raiders, then go over to the ROTC Facebook page. You'll find a link to YouTube right there. And hey, why not go ahead and subscribe, because who knows, we might do another one of these live streams at some point in the near future. And it looks like we are actually live here. Fantastic. Hi everyone, I'm your friend Joseph Craven here on Running Out the Clock. I am joined of course by Keith Harkins. Hello Keith.
Hello.
And we are joined by friend of the program, first time on the show, Gray Barnes. Great, what's going on?
Hello, my friends. I've been planning this hostile takeover for many months while listening to your various shows on ROTC.
Oh no, this is bad. We never should have brought you on here.
Be prepared.
Oh, yikes. Okay, well, we're doing a little test of a live stream here. It may or may not work. We will soon find out exactly what happens as we go through with it. At the very least, we should be able to get something for podcasting purposes, a little overtime episode later on. And since, you know, the SEC obviously does not have anything going on, and this was an SEC, the world's worst SEC podcast anyway, instead we're going to be doing a little video game simulation, because it's the football off season, and in the off season, well, I mean, all the time, the three of us love to play video games. But in the off season, how do sports fans fill that need, that, you know, fill that gap in their life, that when football's not on? Well, we play video games. That's pretty much it, right? So that's what we're gonna do when listening later on, as we kind of have a discussion and talk about whatever we end up talking about. In the background, I'm gonna be live streaming some Madden, and one of the things that doesn't, you know, suck entirely. Actually does something without having to actually play the games, you know, myself.
Your voice may have gone into the future for about 15 solid seconds there.
That's the way I like it.
It's
going to be AI versus AI on this video game stream.
I mean, is it still doing it, or is it any better now?
It's fine now for me, anyway.
All right,
yeah, it's good over here.
We're just gonna bank on it being okay here as well. I'm gonna change one little setting maybe on the stream here to see if that helps. All right, we should be back on the stream now. We should be back. Had to change a few settings, and I think we're good. Back again. I also have a pretty sweet bass voice going on here tonight, on account of significant sinus drainage. It's pretty bad.
That's the fourth guest of the program.
Right.
Sinus drainage.
And a quick shout out for anyone joining the live stream. I do have our member of the team, Ro. I do have a koozie from his wedding that I'm currently drinking. Have a drink in. So Ro's here in spirit. How nice. So the question is on Madden, if we're going to take a terrible team and try to do a better job with them than they actually did in real life, do we want to go with, we have an option here. We have two awful NFL teams, okay guys? We got the Raiders and we got the Cardinals. Who do you think is in worse shape right now between these two teams that both finished, I think, with only 2 wins on the season?
Probably the Raiders, since they literally just got rid of everybody.
They ditched a bunch of people, and they're moving to a different city.
Yeah, like maybe the Cardinals are like in the process of rebuilding, and there's an upswing coming like in the near future. But Raiders feel like they're still falling off that cliff they jumped off of last year.
Like purposefully getting worse, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Gray, what do you think? Out of those two, who would you have to pick?
It's got to be the Raiders.
Oh, all right.
It's got to be
unanimous here on the Raiders. So we're gonna pick the Raiders as our simulation team here. Let's see who their best players are.
The Raiders are bad.
And I like the fact that we're picking the Raiders, actually, because what the Raiders did in real life is what I always do on Madden and trade everyone away to get draft picks and try to rebuild like that. So they're already like one step ahead of me, really. See who their best players are. They have a really good center in Rodney Hudson. That's good.
So we can count on the quarterback getting the ball most of the time.
Most of the time. Not necessarily always, but most of the time.
Most of the time.
Marshawn Lynch is still on their roster. He didn't really play much this season. Jared Cook, the tight end, is their third best player. So, looks good to me.
All right, since my iPad is dying and I did not significantly charge it enough before this started, I'm going to finagle away to figure this out. So sorry if I drop out for a second, you guys.
All good. All good. We'll get you back in a minute. I'm going to make sure the league is set up the way it needs to be set up. We're going to turn off pre-existing injuries. Let's just say start of the season. It's just going to go the way that it went. Full manual control, sure, that sounds good. Turn off the tutorial pop-ups, don't need that. Turn off roster, don't need that. All right. There we go. That's going to do that, I guess. Sure, that looks good. All right, we're going to take the Raiders. And you know what? I think we need to stick as head coach John Gruden, because I think it's important that we try to not get Gruden fired. That's now officially the entire objective of this entire stream, is try to keep John Gruden's job for him. So let's do it. Let's do it. Keith, the college football off season is upon us, and I know for Gray and I, we're big basketball fans. We can watch a lot of basketball, but Keith, that's not really your thing, is it?
No, I am the leading foremost expert in Ole Miss basketball.
All right, of course. Anyone listening to the podcast knows that. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there a question in there that I totally forgot to answer?
Yeah. What do you normally do in the off season? You're not a basketball guy. What do you turn to? Really, well, I know the answer, so I'm curious to.
Yeah. Kind of running concurrently with basketball, of course, is the hockey season, and I am a very big hockey fan, so that keeps me entertained until June.
Who's the team to beat in hockey these days?
Ooh, well, it's not the Red Wings, that's for sure. I mean, you kind of have your teams that have been there for the last several years. You know, like Nashville's really good. Winnipeg's really good. You know, Pittsburgh's always going to be good for as long as they have Crosby and Malkin. The Leafs are really fun to watch. They've kind of fallen off a bit, but they've got a really high-powered offense. They're fun to watch. But the team I think to beat is definitely going to be Tampa Bay. They are running away with the division and the conference lead. I think they're like 10 points ahead of like the nearest team, or 12 or 13 points, something like that. I mean, it's crazy. They are very good. They've got a balanced, high-scoring offense. They've got a really good defense, and of course, they are very strong in that. So they are very good. And we'll probably lose in the second round.
As per tradition.
Yep.
Oh, man. All right, so this is I'm looking at the Raiders roster here, and guys, it is looking bleak. Just going to be honest with you. They've got a defensive end whose name I believe is Fuddrucker, like the restaurant.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Good for them.
Oh my gosh, it's even better. It's Frosty Rucker. That's his name.
Frosty Rucker.
Frosty Rucker's here. Oh, that's nice.
I think you get one of those on your birthday when you go to. You get a free Frosty Rucker.
Which is just an icy. They're trying to make it sound real
That's
nice.
all. Yeah, that's all it is. It's nothing special.
Yeah.
Let's see. Decent offensive line. I mean, Rodney Hudson's good. Calicio's melee is good. You got Gabe Jackson, Mississippi State, SEC guy, holding it down at right guard. You've got super old Donald Penn holding it down at right tackle.
Man, he's still in the league?
Yeah, he's still in the league. I think he was hurt this past season, so he was not actually playing for the Raiders. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot here that is just not really looking appealing as far as the team goes. So the question is, do we try to risk blowing up the team even more than John Gruden actually blew up the team and risk getting fired in our first season as simulation coach of the Raiders? What should we do, gentlemen? I need a consensus here.
I mean, what's the actual chance that you get fired?
Well,
in this video game.
We have set it's most likely extremely low, but we have set a very low goal, where our goal for the season is to try to win 7 games. That is the lowest goal that Madden will let you set, and so that's the goal we're aiming for. The highest is make the Super Bowl. The lowest is make or win 7 games, just kind of at all. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna go with the lowest goal. So I don't really know what that means in terms of whether or not we get fired, but we have the lowest risk of getting fired as far as achieving our goals. So,
all right, here's what I'm thinking.
okay, hit me with it.
We got a subpar roster.
Yeah.
We need to improve. We need a superstar. We need playmakers. So what does that mean? That means we need draft picks.
Okay.
Right? We need draft picks. We need to trade away some of these veteran guys with expiring contracts. And you know what? If we only win 7 games, hey, we satisfied our owner, right? Right.
Our owner, weird looking, what's his name, Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Al Davis.
Yeah, the reanimated corpse of Al Davis.
Corpse of Al Davis.
Yep.
I think I've referred to the owner as Colander Head before. I'm not really sure why. It's just a bad haircut.
Colander Head is like the C movie version of like Pinhead from Hellraiser.
Right. Yeah. All right. I'm looking.
They just couldn't afford anything, so they put a colander on a guy's head.
I'm looking at who we got in here who only has like 1 year on left. And there's a significant amount of people that only have 1 year left on their contract. So chances are we'll actually have a little bit of free agency cap space as well. So that's enticing. Sorry, I gotta try to unplug something on the laptop. Let's see. So what do we could try to get rid of, I feel like we can get decent draft pick value out of players like Marshawn Lynch and Jared Cook. However, they are our only offensive weapons. Ooh, they're also old, though. I think that's what we're going to have to do. I think we're going to have to ditch Marshawn, ditch Jared Cook, and just see where the chips fall.
To be fair, Marshawn was probably leaving anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he's just going to retire again.
He will drive out of that stadium. Baseball field of a stadium on an easy go.
Yep.
Into the sunset.
Just getting on out of there. I'm going to take a handful of these guys. Jonathan Hankins. Oh, yeah, okay. Jonathan Hankins. He doesn't fit our scheme either. Speed rusher? What kind of defensive scheme are the Raiders running where their defensive tackles are required to be speed rushers?
Oh man, they're doing that like defensive version of that stupid offense that people tried to get behind back in like 2008, where every player is like eligible.
Right.
Every player is a pass rusher / safety.
Yeah, okay, look at this. So one of the things Madden 19 did this year was put in these like schemes, and your team was supposed to try to fit like particular schemes. And like the more they fit, then the more like training points they got. It didn't affect actual gameplay. That just affected their development. So the Raiders apparently have a multiple 4-3 defense, and like basically not a single one of my defensive linemen fit the scheme that we're running whatsoever. The left ends are supposed to be speed rushers. The right ends are supposed to be run stoppers. The defensive tackles are supposed to be speed rushers. The left outside linebacker is supposed to be a power rusher. This is a terrible defense.
Or is it the best defense?
I think it... you know what? You're right. You convinced me. It's the best defense. I just need to get rid of my entire defensive line.
I think it's the best defense if the other team runs to the right every play.
Because, like, honestly, didn't John Gruden do that with his Tampa Bay team, except Warren Sapp just kind of held everything else down?
Yeah, essentially. But he could do that because Warren Sapp was like a, was just a unique defensive tackle.
He was like a demigod out there in front of everybody else.
Yeah. All right. Let's see who we got in the free agent market. We've got a rookie defensive tackle named Poona Ford. That's enticing.
I'm behind it.
He's a 5'11", 310-pound defensive tackle, so...
Holy smokes.
He doesn't fit the scheme, but I'm signing him for sure because that sounds awesome.
His first name was Poona?
Poona. Poona.
Man.
Poona Matata.
Poona Ford.
Mm-hmm. Marquette King is apparently a free agent here. I don't know how that happened.
No, we need to bring him back to the...
Might as well. Bring him back to the Bay. They didn't mean to cut him. They just kind of forgot he was on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Lynch, 25-year-old linebacker, 6'6". He's actually a defensive end, so he'll be good. Let's bring him in. He's better than in the linebackers we got, I think. All right, just rating the free agent market here. No one else looks interesting. All right, let's get rid of some players. I added some players to the trade block, but I feel like we need to start ditching some dudes at this point. Let's start with Jonathan Hankins, who doesn't fit.
Oh, man. Trade everybody for, like, a third-round pick and then package together third-round picks for first- and second-round picks.
It works. Madden has the worst trade logic I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
Like the trade logic on Madden is like a pyramid scheme almost.
Can I interest you in this depth linebacker for a low first rounder?
What are the odds I can undo what Gruden did and bring Khalil Mack back to the Raiders?
Probably very high because as you guys have said, trading in video games is completely nonsensical.
Oh, I don't even know who I would have to give up in order to make this happen. What if I tried to give them Jordy Nelson? No, they are not interested in Jordy Nelson at all. Oh, well. All right. I was actually going to try to get rid of Jonathan Hankins, so I'm going to do that. Anyway. Oh, man. So here's the issue, gentlemen, that we come across here in the world of ROTC. Just about everybody wants Jonathan Hankins, so I'm just going to find whoever has a good draft pick that I can maybe get him for. Anyway, the world of ROTC, we've got the world's worst SEC podcast going on here. And while we are covering some SEC basketball, from time to time, especially in the realm of our individual, team-centric, team-focused things, such as the Weekly Pessimist, such as Chandler's new endeavor, Welcome to the Tad Pod, which I think is one of the greatest names to a podcast I've ever heard.
It is fantastic.
We got all that going on, but we need something else, I feel like, to discuss. And that's why I propose that we start covering the AAF.
Oh,
you got. Are you guys familiar with the thought process behind the AAF, the Alliance of American Football?
Listen, I saw a video. Okay, it was a promotional video for the AAF, narrated by everyone's favorite Steeler of all time, Troy Polamalu, and favorite Head and Shoulders spokesman, Troy Polamalu. what they're proposing to bring to the world of springtime football is incredible based on what he said. He said that we want these guys to come in and play an entertaining, professional brand of football. And they leave with skills that will help them develop into better men and will have their families covered with health insurance. They will pay for their kids' education, I think is what he said. It's pretty amazing. And I'm glad that I have recently relocated to the greater Atlanta metro area so that I can become an avid Atlanta Legends fan.
Oh, absolutely.
I think I'm going to ask for an Atlanta Legends jersey for my birthday.
That's what you need to do, yeah.
Oh man, Aaron Murray, Atlanta Legends jersey.
Yep. Is he rocking the number 11 again, like he did when he was at Georgia?
Pretty sure.
I'm going to look it up.
You better be.
I was looking at rosters earlier and totally somehow missed the fact that they tried to load up teams with local college talent.
Yeah.
If they could, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And, you mentioned Troy Polamalu being a part of it. Troy Polamalu is like president of like player relations or something like that for the AAF. He has like some sort of administrative role in the league. And it's a very, very interesting concept to me, the entirety of the AAF, because kind of what you were saying, like, they're really trying to do a league that is very focused on the well-being of the players themselves. They're trying
very anti-NFL.
Very anti-NFL. Oh man, but for real though, like they are trying to give like better benefits and like I don't know. I like the mentality behind it. I'm a big fan of the the thought process. The question I have for it is like, where is the money coming from?
Well, it's about to be coming from me buying one of these Aaron Murray jerseys. That's where it's about to come from.
That's really it. But like, I don't know who the financial backers are for the AAF. I don't really know who it is that like is funding the whole league to get it started, and so I worry that like they're going to make some promises to players and all that are not gonna. They're not going to be able to fulfill or something. I don't know. Either way, I'm still pumped about it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I was like ironically pumped about it until I actually looked into it, and then I was like, this is kind of cool. I'm actually really into this idea now.
Right, and like I think a lot of people are kind of on the train of thought of like, well, they tried the XFL, back in the late 90s or whatever it was, and it crashed and burned after basically a season.
If even a full season.
Yeah, but like the biggest problem with the XFL was, it was basically wrestling football.
Yes.
It seemed like it was all flair and no substance. And
Ric Flair specifically.
Yeah, he was just doing that classic backhand chop to Vince McMahon on the field all day long. But like this seems to, I think maybe they're hoping to kind of recapture a little bit of like the college football sort of feeling here, because they've got teams close to where there's big college towns and schools, and they're bringing in local college talent that either didn't really get their shot in the NFL or had their NFL careers cut short to, for various reasons. And so I really like that about the AAF.
Yeah,
it's not like it's about the entertainment factor, like the XFL, was pushing so much. These are guys that are actually like really talented at what they do. I mean, Aaron Murray is the SEC's all-time league passer.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's not just a bunch of guys, starting from each goal line, running into each other to see who gets first possession. You know what I mean?
It's not rec league dodgeball like the XFL started games out with, you know.
Although I did just see that one of the prime investors is Dick Ebersol, one of the co-founders of the XFL. So maybe he learned his lesson.
This league also seems to be decidedly anti-XFL also, because I'm pretty sure that I remember one of the selling points to the XFL is there's no personal fouls.
Right.
There's like no fouls, period. It's just chaos.
Yep.
And then this league is like, we actually care about our players.
Yes, exactly. We're not douchebags to our players here. The XFL was purely entertainment. It was entirely supposed to be, it was Vince McMahon. You know, it was the, oh wow, we have a 36 overall player on our practice squad here.
Hey, you sent him to the Alliance of American Football.
Yeah, actually, you know why that is? Because Madden does not have a place in here for long snappers. They do not have a position for long snappers, so they put all long snappers as tight ends. So there you go.
All right.
Yep. Where tight ends go to die.
Where tight ends go to die. The Raiders practice squad. But no, yeah. So the XFL was supposed to be this entirely like absurd, over the top, nonsensical, just stupid entertainment league. And the AAF's not trying to be that. They're trying to be not a minor league to the NFL necessarily. They're not going to have any of those ties, but try to be like an alternative to players that don't make it. Exactly what you're saying, Keith. Players that don't make it, players that don't have their NFL hopes, or maybe cut a little bit short, whatever it may be. That's what they're aiming to do. And I think it's a respectable, like it really is a respectable, motivation behind the entire thing. And I really like that. The more I looked into it, I thought it was funny at first because I was thinking it was going to be, because the XFL is supposed to come back in like 2 years.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
And they're trying to make it more legitimate. And so it's pretty interesting that the AAF jumps in there and they're like, actually, we'll do it first as a more legitimate league.
I think the XFL is the XFL is like football's Fire Festival. And the Alliance of American Football is like Lollapalooza's first like 5 years. Like give these alternative indie bands a place to showcase what they got,
Yeah. Fire Festival. Well, quick update on the Raiders. I've been trading away a few players and been able to accumulate 3 more first-round draft picks. So, trying to do actual John Gruden stuff, like he did in real life. The problem here is that this game did not translate over John Gruden's actual, like, trades. Like, all I have are his lack of players. I don't have any of the draft picks that he was given. So this is a little bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
A little more difficult. I'm going to let I'm going to do all the management decisions, and I'm going to let the computer handle any sort of player training and the decisions on how they train these players. And we're just going to get through things. So, all right, guys, I think we're ready to make it through week 1 of the Raiders, opening week, against a little team known as the Los Angeles Rams. They're Bush League. They're an XFL team. On account of the fact that they don't get personal fouls called against them.
Oh man, that was relevant.
Thank you.
Very timely joke.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead.
And traumatizing.
Yeah, and traumatizing. Let's talk about that for just a little bit here. Let's branch off from the AAF for just a moment and talk about the travesty of the NFC Championship game. I'm going to simulate ahead into regular season week 2. See what happens. Shockingly enough, the Raiders lost. Let's see what. Oh gosh, It was bad too. All right, it was a 38-10 loss. Let's look at the stats and see what we can figure out here. Oddly enough, the backup quarterback for the Rams had the highest passing rating of anyone in the game. It's good for him. He completed a 10-yard pass and has a high passing rating because of that. All right. Our star quarterback of the future, highest paid player in the league for a while there, Derek Carr, had a whopping 128 passing yards. Yikes. Yeah, the Raiders are terrible.
Real quick, I saw that Zach Mettenberger is playing for the Memphis AAF team.
Mm-hmm. The Express, right?
Yeah, I thought he just signed, or like, well, not just, but didn't he sign like a really good contract just a few years ago with Seattle, maybe, or something?
Oh, that is a good question. I don't.
I'm gonna look that up instead of just blindly asking questions.
I do remember he did okay in Nashville. I think Mariota was hurt for a bit, and he kind of held it together. I don't remember really what happened to him.
Yeah, I don't recall it either. He's an interesting one because of the fact that he was on an incredibly weird team at LSU. Because you're talking about, you had Odell, Jarvis Landry, Hill, the running back, whose first name I'm now forgetting. Oh well. Jeremy, thank you. Jeremy Hill. And then you had Mettenberger at quarterback. And that team was like, okay.
Yeah.
It's just such a weird team.
I am not. I was thinking about the other game managing quarterback from LSU.
Oh, Matt Flynn. Yeah. Matt Flynn had that incredible
because Green Bay or something, right?
Yeah, he had a good season in replacement of Aaron Rodgers when Aaron Rodgers went down with an injury at one point. He ends up being signed by Seattle, and Seattle ends up deciding, actually, we like this Russell Wilson kid that we just drafted. And the rest, as they say, is history.
That was an incredible story. I remember, the first game he replaced, or got the start or had to come in the game. I think he threw 5 or 6 touchdowns.
It was nonsense, yeah.
And it's based off of these 4 games that he played, he signed this massive contract.
Matt Flynn had a better NFL career than Jamarcus Russell did.
Oh yeah, you and I had better NFL careers than Jamarcus Russell.
True.
Man, that dude was a disaster of a player.
Have you heard the story of him being sent home with tape to watch?
Yes, it's so good. Please tell it. Please tell the story. It's so good.
Okay, so this is going to be paraphrased and probably factually very inaccurate. But,
much like Jamarcus Russell's career.
Yeah, just our kind of story.
So from what I remember, it was either a coach or some sort of guy that hands out film to watch for guys. Sent Jamarcus home with a blank iPad or a blank tape to watch.
I think they were actual VHS tapes, maybe.
Yeah. It was blank, and it was labeled as 49ers defensive fronts, something like that. But it was completely blank. And the next day they showed up, and they were what are your notes on the film and everything, and he just BS'd it, like we all did in high school or college, and
or in this case, in our careers.
Yeah. Or on this very podcast.
Hey-o.
So he never, apparently he never watched film or worked out. He just went into games and trusted his cannon of a right arm. I mean, there's no debate about the guy's arm strength.
Nope.
But, Yeah, that just goes to show you that it's not all about your arm. Like
Yep.
Quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, they were worried that he wasn't watching tape, so to test it, they actually gave him blank tapes. That still cracks me up more than like anything else. That's what they did, and he fell for it. So,
Well, we got to
Good on you.
change that culture here in Oakland.
we do. So far, I mean, I'm impressed with what we've got. We grinded out. I mean, rough estimate, it looked like we got 200 yards of total offense against the Rams to start the season, and I think that's huge. It's really great. Good grief. I'm gonna put Doug Martin in as my fullback. That's how bad things are in Oakland. Like, their best option to replace an injured Marshawn Lynch was to put in Doug Martin. Yikes. All right. Gentlemen, slow moving over here in Oakland, by the way. Made a couple more trades, try to get some more draft picks. Still only have the 4 first-rounders. I'm going to try to move up from that. But we're going to move into week 3 and see what happens.
Were we actually going to talk about that Saints game?
Yeah, I was going to
Was it
get
like
back.
sarcasm?
No, I was going to get back to that.
I just didn't know if you're like, yeah, let's talk about that because we haven't heard about it enough, sort of thing.
No, I did want, since it came up, figured we might as well, as we're bouncing around. This is how live streams are different than podcasts. Like, the podcast, we come in with a game plan, we try to follow some sort of outline, some sort of discussion. Live stream, man, just whatever pops in our heads. Let's just go for it. Good news here is that the Raiders won the second game of the season. They beat the Broncos 31-27. So another one of the worst teams in the NFL. We at least were able to beat them.
We stopped them running left.
Yeah, exactly. It's a real shootout. Carr had 292 passing yards. Case Keesum, as John Elway knows him, had 280 passing yards. So pretty good.
Casey Kasem doing work.
Casey Kasem doing work. Yeah, so the NFC Championship game had... I mean, it wasn't just the one call at the end of the game. I think one of the things that's really noticeable about it was one of those... what's the polite way of saying it? The refs really let the players play? Is that the polite way of saying it? It was all game long. There was a whole lot of just... letting a lot of things slide, and... I don't know. Both games were really bad. And now, of course, the NFL's getting in trouble because people are realizing that 4 of the officials in that officiating crew actually live in or around L.A. And they're like,
nice.
Should that have really been allowed?
Right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, if not for, they could be very professional, but as the NFL is, it's about perception. So that is not a good look. Did you see that the head official was calling a BYU basketball game and got taunted?
Really?
By some BYU? Yes, he was calling a BYU basketball game. Of course, the famous alumnus Taysom Hill, a Saint. So they loved their guy, and they were giving him the business all game. And he told them to, get rid of their signs. Mocking him and said that he wasn't going to talk about the game. So,
wow.
Interesting stuff.
Wow. That is interesting. Just bad. But yeah, I mean, like, it's not a great look to have, players or referees, I mean, who live in, like, the LA area checking out and reffing the game. It's also not really a great look. I heard a rumor that, like, the backup would have been a dude who, like, one of the backup officials was a guy who would have been, who lives, like, in Mississippi and has, like, regional ties to, like, the Louisiana. Like, so that's not any better, Oh, man. Just a mess, though. Just a mess. The whole game was rough. That bad play at the very end, it's very interesting, the people that are just like, well, if the Saints had just done this thing a little bit better, that wouldn't have mattered. If the Saints had done this a little bit more, that wouldn't have mattered. But sure, like, but at the end of the day, like, none of those things worked out like that, yes. But the Saints had an opportunity to take a lead at the very end of the game, and that was ripped away from them by the officials in terms of how much time was taken out. That did happen. An obvious mistake did actually happen. So, like, we can play hypotheticals all we want with, well, maybe if Drew Brees had thrown the ball better, then, that wouldn't have been an issue, all that. Maybe if they had gotten touchdowns instead of field goals to start the game, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, there was a very clear, like, there was less than 2 minutes left. They could have drained more clock, and they weren't given the chance to because of a really bad missed call. It's just bad. It's just bad. It's one of the worst situations that you could possibly. I think Cameron Jordan showed up to the Pro Bowl today wearing a shirt that said something along the lines of "blow whistles, not games."
Yes.
like I understand the whole mentality of like letting them play, but that really only applies to stuff like don't call like ticky-tack holding calls or pass interference on both sides or on like one side when like both players are getting real handsy, but to like use that as some sort of defense for as a player is turning for the ball and trying to track it and catch it, and another player comes in like a Scud missile, not even trying to look for anything, and just levels a guy. Also, a little helmet-to-helmet hit there. So, like, two clearly illegal plays happening at once, and nothing gets called.
The guy got fined $24,000 for a helmet-to-helmet hit that was not even called.
Couldn't be called.
Yeah. And Michael Thomas of the Saints, of course, had gotten fined $30,000 earlier in the season for pulling a cell phone out and doing a Joe Horn classic cell phone celebration when he scored a touchdown.
Priorities, man.
Yep.
Priorities.
If that doesn't sum up the NFL. It doesn't really sum up like football in general. I don't know what does, but especially
caring more about quote unquote illegal celebrations in an entertainment business than a guy being being decapitated mid-game.
A man actually dying to lose a game, basically.
Mm-hmm.
This reminds
me.
He
gave his life for the game.
Rest in peace, man.
This is going to be an aside to an aside, so I'm probably digressing greatly here.
Because we're all doing great. Yeah. We're all staying on topic very well.
So we're discussing about, the entertainment business and the NFL not really caring about its players. So what better way to digress than to talk about Mark Emmert and the NCAA? There was somebody asked the man, I think it was like a day or two ago, would he ever consider esports to be a sanctioned NCAA, sport?
Mm-hmm.
And Mark Emmert's reply was, it was just so unaware of of the violence of football. He said, I don't really think we're going to consider sports where people blow each other's heads off for the NCAA. Football is, under a lot of scrutiny now for concussions and CTE and all this stuff, where people are literally trying to
blow somebody's head
off. Yeah. So Mark Emmert being unaware of the current climate.
Oh my god,
it's so bad.
One of my favorite things to
being like unaware is like one thing, but also having one of the most apt comparisons ever is just amazing.
What do you even say to that? Like I don't know.
Literally, you call like a helmet to helmet like a headshot.
Right.
Like, oh man, that guy just got decapitated.
Yeah,
is what people would say at home.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing about it is like we have celebrated that sort of stuff for so long. I mean, we just talked about the XFL earlier, right? I mean, you literally have an entire league that tried to make itself marketable based on this idea of players just trying to decapitate each other. And then you add onto that. Ooh, I just had a very loud notification in my ear. Whoops, threw me off. But you add onto that sorry, I drew again. Getting distracted. Should not be trying to multitask. Yeah, add on to that. Yeah, I've completely lost it. Thanks a lot, Tyler Blunt, for showing up in the live chat and distracting me from what I was trying to say.
Yeah, Tyler.
Anyway,
Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler's the best. I'm glad he's actually in the live chat, by the way. So shout out to Tyler, who's watching live and listening to the discussion. I'll check his comments in a second here once I trade away a cornerback for another first-round draft pick. But you had the XFL, which was like, it was this glorified... Actually, you know what? I'm glad Tyler showed up because he's the one who showed me this clip that I was actually going to mention. You had this glorification of the violence of football for the longest time, especially in the XFL. And now we want to act like that is all disgusting. You know, oh man, like player, you know, we want to act like we always cared about it. And I might have brought it up on the show before, I might not have, but Tyler once sent me a clip and was like, dude, check this out. And it was Max Kellerman, who, I'll be honest, I actually kind of like Max Kellerman. For being one of the guys who makes a living off of yelling into a camera. I think that he actually has good stuff to say. But he made this whole comment when there was a fight in the NBA earlier this year, and he was like, you know, we can't act like we weren't entertained by it. Like, we can't sit around and act like we're so high and mighty that, you know, we weren't entertained. So many people were so quick to say, oh, there's no place in sports for anyone to act the way that they've acted in this game. There's no place in sports for this, you know. There's no place. And so even now people are like, well, yeah, there's no place in sports for shooting games, esports, whatever it may be, you know, things that glorify violence. And we all act like we've always cared about player safety when we haven't. Man, like, I still like to go back and watch the Malice in the Palace, Detroit Pistons, Indiana Pacers brawl from years ago. You know, it's entertaining. Like, we can't act like we weren't entertained by people stooping to, like, just terrible behavior, you know? Anyway, it's just interesting to see, for the people in charge who for so long have profited, and there's no surprise for the NCAA and Mark Emmert in particular, but the people that have profited off of the violence of the sport, to suddenly come in and say, "Oh yes, we've never really condoned the violence that goes into all of this."
Well, yeah, like how many montages do we see in August and September about, you know, like the NFL or like the NCAA's hardest hits of last year to like get people hyped for it, you know?
Oh yeah,
and just like everybody appreciates, you know, good form tackling, but like a lot of those hardest hits things are just like they're cringeworthy just because of like how vulnerable players are, and there's such a premium place on these, you know, huge blindside hits where everybody jumps around and like grab each, you know, it's really close to like Roman gladiator type stuff out there now.
Right. No, it really is. I actually wrote an essay one time in Dr. Phillips' class at Belhaven years ago, Keith.
Oh, love that man.
In which I wrote about how the comparisons between our obsession with like modern sport and the Roman Colosseums, and basically how the athletes we watch are, you know, they're property to us in a lot of ways. And I wrote the essay entirely because I just knew it was something he would like, and I was BSing my way through it because that was college for me. But, you know, whatever. Quick update on the terrible Raiders. Week 4, we just got blanked 30-0 by the Browns.
Yikes.
So I got to say our rebuild strategy is going very well, working very, very successfully. Good for us. Good job, everybody.
High fives around.
High fives.
The
top 10 hardest NFL hits on YouTube has 41 million views. How to form tackle has 170,000. So
there you go.
There's a ratio for you.
Yeah. Oh man,
That's amazing.
that is fantastic. That's just fantastic.
And like, they even call hits like that bone crunching hits.
Right. Exactly.
Like we're not even trying to hide it anymore. Like, hits that cause injury get views and clicks and people talking. Just you know.
Yep. No, we're absolutely right.
A Memphis Grizzlies Brooklyn Nets game highlights or center in any form or fashion. But if Mark Gasol going to punch Dinwiddie in the face, SportsCenter's going to be talking about that show.
They are. You're cutting out a little bit there, but I did follow what you're saying. In particular, the mental image of giant Mark Gasol trying to punch little Spencer Dinwiddie in the face is hilarious to me now. So,
well, also because nobody wants to watch the Memphis Grizzlies do anything.
No,
exactly.
Really don't. Really,
I don't even watch basketball, and I just don't care about Memphis in any particular fashion.
Yeah, exactly. One of the, I'm with you on that. One of the comments Tyler just left for us, by the way, that I just noticed was something we talked about a good bit on the podcast. But of course, the fight in the Egg Bowl between the Mississippi State and Ole Miss players, like. It got a lot of negative attention, and it got a lot of mention by the SEC office, who's had something to say about it, but of course, didn't actually do anything about it. By the way,
good,
but had plenty to say about it. That sort of stuff. Like it has entertainment value to us that we don't want to admit because I don't know. I guess just on a deeper, human level, we don't want to admit that sort of stuff is entertaining to us at all. We don't want to admit that we are all garbage people. I don't know, but either way, all I know is that I have really just absolutely destroyed the Raiders organization at this point. Like, I have traded away so many people. I'm really hoping that they do not fire me, because if so, I'll be able to draft... I mean, pretty much almost anyone that I want to, it looks like, in the first round. Guess we'll find out a little bit.
The whole outgoing senior class is now an Oakland Raider.
I mean, it was essentially if anyone had an expiring contract, instead of trying to re-sign them outside of my free safety, if anyone tried to, instead of re-signing them, I just went ahead and was just like, you're out of here, buddy. I got rid of Marshawn Lynch. I got rid of Doug Martin. I'm starting Southern Miss alum Jalen Richard at running back.
Good.
Yeah, he deserves it. He deserves it, I say. All right, I feel like, you guys correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like the amount of picks that I have is maybe enough to go ahead and speed through the rest of the regular season. Let's look and see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 first-round picks.
Seems like enough.
I'm feeling pretty good about it.
I thought you were going to go with just 7 picks, period.
No, they're all first-rounders.
7 first-round picks.
I think it's time to go ahead and move ahead a little bit more. Tyler's now saying that I'm nothing compared to John Gruden.
Oh, man, shots fired.
Coach of the year. Got 3 teams to the playoffs. The Cowboys, the Rams, and the Bears. It's so true, though. It's so true. Especially Chicago. My goodness, the Khalil Mack effect on Chicago was so instantaneous.
Yep.
Yeah, that's something else.
Have y'all ever seen a bigger impact, like by one player making one, like a move like that, a bigger impact to a team, to especially a football team? Because like I feel like yes, okay, LeBron James going to Miami,
Yeah.
yes, that's a massive impact. That's going to really affect things, but
But there's only like 5 players playing like the whole game, so there's a greater chance of one player lifting it all up. With like football, it's like
Right. Like,
there's so many players, and like football, like you can easily game plan to just stay away from like one side of the field,
right.
or like block this one person, and you're fine. But for a guy like that, yeah, that's crazy. Like, I feel like who he is and like the value that he adds to a team is what everybody thought that like Ndamukong and Sue would do.
Right. Right.
and the man came from Buffalo.
Yes.
University of Buffalo. I
Yeah.
mean, and he's one of my favorite guys to watch, and I'm glad that he got traded to a team that actually thinks he did what he was asking for. You know what I mean? Because he completely flipped of the Bears. I mean, if not for what an idiot kicker, you know.
What was it? No, the very last thought you had, you completely cut out. It's like the
Peyton Manning
oh
talking about idiot kicker. Who knows? The Saints might have been playing the Bears and might have crushed Tommy Lee Lewis and not gotten penalized for it. So
right. Khalil Mack would have destroyed him at the end of the game instead of absolutely. Khalil Mack, a 2-star recruit coming out of college or coming out of high school.
Wow.
Yep. That's insane.
Stars matter, guys.
Stars matter.
It's the old J.J. Watt effect.
Yep. And like I get it when people talk about like how much like a team, like how the biggest teams always are, win championships based on how many 5-star recruits they're able to pull in. I do understand that impact as far as like if you're able to get like 14 5-star recruits to Alabama, Alabama's going to win a lot of games. But when it comes down to like what the player is actually like rated, how much that matters, it doesn't at all. Like J.J. Watt's one of the biggest examples of how like little how little the recruiting stars and rankings even matter, because he's a guy that just absolutely crushed it as a pro, and I mean crushed it in college to get there to the pros beforehand. So, by the way, I have imported, one of the nice things about Madden 19 is that you can bring in custom draft classes so that we can actually recruit, or we can scout realistic, like the actual guys that will be coming in this next year's recruiting or draft class. I keep saying recruiting because we're talking about recruiting. So you're going to have guys like Will Greer from West Virginia showing up. Keith, you're going to have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from Florida in there. So Boom Boom Benny Snell. Is that what they call him? Boom Boom Benny Snell? I don't think so.
It is now.
It is now. Who was their guy that they called Boom or Boom Boom in Kentucky? What was his name?
Will Muschamp.
That's it.
I actually have no idea. I just know that they called Muschamp Coach Boom.
Coach Boom, right? Yeah, that's true. I felt like there was Boom. I might have made that up.
Maybe that's what they also called Jared Lorenzen.
The hefty lefty, the abominable throw man. Man, he had some good names.
Yeah, I think it was Spencer Hall tweeted a video of him his like senior year back at Kentucky, and don't know what was going on because that was definitely like the digital age, but that video looked like it was from like the 1970s.
It is always astonishing
it was like
to me.
Super grainy and terrible.
Yeah, it is always astonishing to me looking at sports footage from like the year 2005. So like the year I graduated high school.
Looks so old.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, that's not that long ago. I was in high school. I should surely remember what that looks like. And then I watch it and I'm like, this is from 1983. What are you guys talking about?
Yeah, I was trying to show, I think my cousin, like the footage of Tyrone Prothro making that behind the back catch at Alabama. I think that was 04, 05, somewhere.
So not the one where his leg snapped?
Yeah, not that one.
I was going to you mentioned Prothro. I'm like, no, don't talk about Prothro.
Yeah. He has two moments: the amazing catch and the horrific end of
much less amazing catch.
Right.
It looked like I had just got done playing like addictinggames.com in computer lab. You know what I mean?
I forgot about addicting games.
There is no like visual fidelity difference between like a 1983 NBA game and like a 2004 NBA game.
Right.
They're the exact same looking.
Like TV technology, broadcast technology did not advance at all for like 25 years. And then all of a sudden we hit this whole HD thing and it's just like dun da da. It came out of the dark ages.
Yeah.
Like if I want to contact or some.
Oh, there you are. You cut out right after you said contact. It's like, if I want to contact, we're like, contact who? Us?
Let's just say, for example, Mississippi State University. I'm putting together a Kiefer McGee tribute video. Rest in peace, Kiefer McGee.
Legend.
They'll probably have to pull it out on Laserdisc.
Right.
And transfer it to DVD. And it's still going to look like, pretty trash.
Yeah. Kiefer, of course, gosh, what was that? Like 95, 96? I want to say. Maybe later than that. So. Maybe it was. I think it actually probably was later 90s. I think he was later. I think he was like a freshman in the 95, 96 era. I remember this because there was the first college football game to have the licensing to show all the college football teams on it. Came out in 95, I believe, and we had it on the Sega Genesis. And I remember Anthony explaining to me that Kiefer McGee, Anthony, my brother, that is, explained to me that Kiefer McGee was on that game, but he was like a freshman, so he would not have been any good at that point in time.
That was a true story, by the way. I actually did contact Mississippi State University to see if I could watch some Kiefer McGee film, because I never really got to see him play.
Was it on Laserdisc?
It was not on Laserdisc.
Okay.
But they said that they couldn't fulfill my request. So
MSG was a noted early adopter of Laserdisc technology.
Noted early and only adopter of Laserdisc.
Laserdisc technology.
Major Lager.
So, like, another one of those anomalies of film is, for like the longest time, I always wondered if those like NFL Classic games where like the speed is like reduced down to like 0.7 or something.
Yep.
Yes.
If people actually move that slow back then, why is it happening? This is so terrible.
Oh man.
People were on the edge of their seats because they're just waiting for like a play to be over.
Like, you really can't appreciate the talent of some of those guys, because you're watching it.
Like, wow, this spin move took 6 seconds.
Right.
Barry Sanders wasn't actually that good.
No, he wasn't, turns out. Oh no, the Raiders' morale is very low. Some of my players are losing overall abilities because of how many games we've lost.
I've forgotten how to run, Coach.
Oh no, it's bad. It's bad, guys. We're currently sitting. I think we've lost 4 in a row, including getting blanked by the Cardinals. Oh no.
Oh gosh, that's not good.
All
right.
Cardinals.
We got 5 more games to get through before we can actually hit the offseason and A, see if we keep our job, and B, hit the draft class hard and try to really rebuild. So here we go, gentlemen. Let's speed through this.
Just punched him right in the face.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. We had a discussion on the basketball podcast, 40 Minutes of Hell, one time, where we were trying to talk about players that we felt like could come back, and like if you took them in their prime back in the day, would their game translate to success in the modern NBA? You know, and because it's like, yeah, you could look at some of the best players ever, and be like, yeah, Bill Russell is one of the best players to ever play the sport, but would his game really translate? Because he was not super tall. He was not like a proficient scorer. He just was more athletic than everyone else that was on the field. It was that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The difference of like just were they good and could their game translate?
And could Bill Russell measure up to Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Exactly. Like you're gonna have
could Bill Russell even say his name?
Somewhere right now, Bill Russell is flipping you off, Keith, because you said that.
Of course I can see it.
He's a savage.
He is. But yeah, it's that discussion, and it's really funny because it's sometimes it's hard to tell. You pull up old footage, and yeah, like the game is significantly different. And as Roe pointed out, like he wasn't sure Jerry West could actually translate to the modern game because he felt like every time he looked at any Jerry West footage, it felt like he was standing upright, dribbling the ball about shoulder height, and like with his arm behind his back, like Stanley from The Office did in that one episode.
Oh, what a reference!
Yeah,
make that the logo.
It was a deep reference. Like I was really impressed with Roe's ability to get there on that one, but it was a good point. I mean, I don't know, maybe Jerry West couldn't translate, but you look at some of those old football players and the old footage, I feel like the footage itself does it injustice. Like we look at some of the top players from the 60s and 70s, I feel like they were probably better than they look on film.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Like seeing Terry Bradshaw wind up for half an hour and throw a bomb, it's like, I'm sure he had a quicker release than that.
Oh man.
One of the hockey podcasts that I listened to kind of explored that situation with the hockey players, and of course, like the biggest thing was, could Wayne Gretzky score at the clip that he scored at in like the current game? But maybe the more fascinating thing was how dominant could a current player be if he went back into like the 40s. And they were all laughing, like saying, like, could Alexander Ovechkin score 60 goals back in 1934 when like there were no penalties, so like they could hook and slash all day long.
Yeah, but if you got hit, you just had to live with it.
Yeah, but like they're talking about like most of the players back then like took smoke breaks like in between periods. So you had this 6'3", like 230-pound Alexander Ovechkin. He would score 60 goals per game.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, he would just murder everybody.
I mean, just the athletic, just like the athleticism. How much more athletic people are these days than they used to be. I mean,
like their training now is so much more like specific and just it's crazy.
Like Ovechkin was training to be Alex Ovechkin probably when he was 7 years old.
Oh,
his life was tailored around
maybe even at 2.
Yeah,
like
Ivan Drago training over there for Ovechkin.
Yeah. Most professional hockey players actually do learn to skate before they can walk. Usually, like they say that as like a joke, but like a lot of people do say, yeah, I remember seeing video me skating before I could actually walk.
Well, that's because a lot of them grow up in either Canada or Russia, and that's what you have to do to get around in any of those countries. Like, you can't walk anywhere.
Barren, frozen wasteland.
You might as well pass the time doing it while carrying a stick and bringing a little piece of coal along with you to slide across the ice. You know,
Why not? Why not? Oh, gentlemen, we're hitting the last week of the Raiders' regular season here. So
what's our record?
I'm gonna scout a few guys and let me get back in there and show you real quick. But it's not looking good. I think we might have 3 wins, which is better than the Raiders did in real life, if I remember correctly. So we're 3-12. Somebody look up the Raiders' record and tell me if that was.
So it looks like we're gonna miss our mark of 7-9.
Yeah. Whoops.
I'll look this up real quick.
But we do have like 8 first-round draft picks, so that's good.
The Raiders went 4-12 this season.
4-12.
Ooh.
Dang. All right. Well, we have to beat the Kansas City Chiefs in order to. No pressure, but we have to beat the Chiefs in the last week of the season to hit 4-12.
They actually did beat the Broncos in real life.
Nice. We just lost to the Broncos. All right, here we go.
The AFC West was really good this year. Well, I say that. You had 4-12 and 6-10, but then the Chargers and the Chiefs both went 12-4.
Well, guys, we weren't able to do it. We only won 3 games. I'm sorry to have failed everyone so dramatically. Looks like Carson Wentz of the Eagles won the league MVP award. I apologize to Tyler Blunt if he's still watching, who hates the Eagles quite a bit. And I know this is shocking to everyone, but John Gruden did not win NFL Coach of the Year. Oh, what a shame.
Give him the Legacy Award.
Yeah, at the very least. All right, well. I'm going to go ahead and skip through the upgrade players section here. All right, the divisional championships. I feel like we don't care about who wins any of this stuff. So let's just jump straight ahead to the Super Bowl. See who makes it to the Super Bowl.
I got tickets to the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl 53 has the Los Angeles Rams. Okay, there's some realism. And no big surprise here. Their opponent is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Noted AFC powerhouse, Jacksonville Jaguars.
Man, Madden, much more favorable opinion of the Jaguars than the Jaguars had of themselves in real life, it seems. All right. Okay. We're about to hit the... we got a lot of cap penalties going on here on the team. That's fine. I'm going to just clear those because I feel like we need all the help we can get. Let's get into the offseason, see who wins the Super Bowl. The Rams beat the Jags 28-21 in the Super Bowl. There we go, everyone. All right, we've hit the end of the season. We have 26 players with expiring contracts. I feel like I'm just going to let them all walk. All right, free agency for the Raiders. This is important here. Let's see who is. We have $52 million in cap space. This was really the Raiders. This was their game plan all along. Look at John Gruden. He really did go with a complete rebuild. He got everyone to just expire, essentially. All right. DeMarcus Lawrence is the top free agent, the 93 overall defensive end from the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to go in hard, offer him a 7-year contract, see if we can get this guy locked down. Oof. The Dolphins appear to be offering him all the money in the world, so we're going to combat that, I feel like. Keith, you are a Tennessee Titans fan. Is Keith still there? Did he walk away and I not notice it?
Keith walked away, but I can confirm that he is a Tennessee Titans fan.
It's true. I'm a Tennessee Titans fan.
There he is. Sorry about that, Keith. I did not realize you'd walked away when I asked you a question.
I was in the kitchen. I was like, oh no.
Talk to us a bit about the Titans right now. What shape are they in? They had, their season came down to the very last game of the year of the regular season, trying to earn a playoff berth.
And I think they would have been in an overall better position had Mariota not had such a weird season with like injuries. Like it seemed like he was always kind of battling something.
Yeah, and
he missed a few games because of it, and obviously that hurts. But I feel like they're on the upswing. They're still kind of rebuilding a little bit. Defense is in decent shape for the first time in what seems like a decade.
Mm-hmm.
But
they do lose Brian Arakpo, who retired.
Yeah,
not that he was incredibly effective last season, but
in
his old age, he's
a veteran leader, and those guys are always really valuable in the locker room for the younger guys. But it was really promising to see Derrick Henry kind of come to life towards the end of the year. So
for sure,
hopefully he can carry that over to next year.
Hopefully he's still not on the trading block.
Right.
Yeah,
I heard about that.
It was really interesting that like as soon as that talk kind of gained traction, he had that ridiculous game.
Yeah. He just needed some extra motivation, man.
Yeah. He's like, I see your trading block, and I'll raise you 300 yards rushing.
Thank you.
And like 4 touchdowns. And that one, like, usually when you see that like a running back has like a 99-yard rushing touchdown, I was telling Joseph this, like you watch the video and kind of expect there to be like a safety that's way out of position, and he just breaks like one tackle, hits that secondary, and there's nobody close. He just runs into the end zone basically untouched. And then I watched the video, and he basically gets hit right away, sheds that tackle, starts kind of lumbering down the sidelines, and then quite honestly looks like he's looking for somebody else to run over. Like he like looks inside, sees a safety, and then kind of veers towards him, like runs him over. Somebody catches up with him, grabs hold of him. He like stiff arms down. He's just like, it was one of the most impressive, long field touchdown runs I think I've ever seen.
It really was.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff he did at Alabama, too.
Right?
I mean, he outran people,
and like he is fast, but like he's also just a physical, like monster,
Yeah, exactly. Big fan of that guy.
Honestly, reminds me a little bit of like Eddie George, if Eddie George was like a little bit bigger, same.
A lot a bit bigger.
Well, I mean, Eddie George wasn't a small dude. He was what, 6'2", like 220 or something?
Was he really that tall? I did not remember him being a tall guy, but I don't recall. Eddie George actually got in touch with Derrick Henry before the end of the season. It's kind of like challenged him. He was like, dude, look, you're not just playing for, like your position or whatever right now. He said, you're playing for your career right now. You have to treat every single down as like this could be it. Like you have to fight that hard in order to keep it. And that's really what helped trigger Derrick Henry's massive onslaught by the end of the season, where he was running over fools, where he was doing all that incredible stuff.
Eddie George was quite literally bigger than Herschel Walker.
Wow.
Because his playing height and weight was 6'3", 235.
See, I guess I just never realized Eddie George was 6'3". That's incredible, because yeah. Good for him. Good for Eddie George.
For Eddie George and Derrick Henry, 6'3", 238.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm sure that was a riveting use of your time. That's going to wrap up the podcast version of this. We went on for about an hour more. Again, if you're curious about what happens to the Raiders, or if you just want to hear what else we have to talk about, that live stream link can be found on the Running Out the Clock Facebook page. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for more ROTC as we do some AAF episodes coming up real soon, as well as our team-specific series such as Welcome to the Tad Pod, Ole Miss basketball-based podcast, and the Weekly Pessimist of Mississippi State athletics in general. I'm your friend Joseph Craven. We'll see you next time on ROTC.